Hello, this is Jan from the Fuzzy Duckling, bringing you chapter number 5 in our Learning to Draw series. This is part 1, and we're going to learn how to draw a different kind of petal and a different kind of leaf than we drew in chapter 4. You will need, as usual, a nice piece of drawing paper or mixed media paper. You will need your pencil, an eraser, and if you're going on to ink and color your picture, you will need a nice black ink pen and some pencils, colored pencils of your choice, and some Sharpies of your choice. And then optional, if you want to use a ruler. And speaking of that, if you want to have a kind of a template, you might want a little jar lid to start your flower. And I'll show you how to do that. That's optional though. This is the flower we're going to draw today. It really is a very simple flower, but I think it's really pretty. So let's get started. This will start out with a couple shapes you already learned how to draw in the previous lessons, which is a rectangle, straight lines, and an oval. There's a circle up here, and then we'll learn how to do these. So let's get started. Be sure I have it here so you can see. Let's see if I can get this in the picture. The first thing we want to do is draw this rectangle that is our little vase for our flower. Now, my rectangle is probably about 4 inches. You can make this any size you want. Just remember there's only going to be one flower in this vase. Let's turn this over for a cleaner side. All right. So, a rectangle. And I'm going to start it about here. And it's close to the center of the picture as I can get it just by eyeballing it. And remember, these first sketch lines should be light so that you can erase and change. I mean, very seldom do we get our lines exact the first time we draw them. And we want the ability to erase and change and make them better. So there is a rectangle. Quite simple, isn't it? And then on top of that rectangle, we're going to do a laying down oval. So right up here, this oval just laid right down on top of the rectangle. And you might want to make it just a little bit shorter than the width of your rectangle. So it looks like there's kind of an edge to your little flower pot. Or vase, whatever you'd like to call it. See that? Now we have that. Now you can either do this by hand. We talked about that in another lesson. Or, you know, there is no harm in using some helps, especially when we're using circles. It's good to know how to do it by hand. But when you actually are doing your artwork, it doesn't hurt to use some things like rulers and things that you draw around, and we're going to show you how to draw around a circle for the flower. So let's come up here just a little bit of ways, and it's going to kind of lean to the side. So I'm going to put a circle about there. Let's bring this down a little bit again. So I'm just going to lightly trace around this lid. I like to save all kinds of lids because they come in handy many times for your artwork. In fact, I have this big blue lid here that at first I was going to do a big round vase, and we're going to use that later to do a big round vase in another lesson. So I like to keep all sizes. So this will be our flower. And let's see, let's go ahead and draw a nice curvy line for our stem. Well, no, we're going to do something else first. We're going to draw that stem in a minute. Now, I want you to lightly, we're going to draw a cross. We're going to divide this flower into 4 sections. Now, don't get hung up about this being exactly in the middle. Just as close as you can eyeball it. And see, mine is not. But that's all right. It's going to look fine, even though it's not. So now we've made divisions here for our 4 petals. So we have a center part on our flower over here. Let's do a circle here in the middle that is the center of our flower. And again, don't worry, it probably won't be the exact center of your circle. If you're really picky and want to be exact about your circles and your centers, you would use one of these. And you can find these in any store like Walmart, your drugstore, your office store. So if you did that and drew your circle around, you would actually have your center marked exact. But you know, I'm not that worried about it being exact on these pictures. Sometimes if they're too perfect, they don't look as good as if there's just little things that aren't exact. And if you look on my picture over here, I bet you didn't notice at the beginning, every one of these petals is a little bit of a different size. And that's okay, because when you look at a petal out in nature, it won't look exactly the same on every petal. All right, so now we have our circle in the middle. We're going to draw the petals. I'm going to come along one of my lines, and we're almost going to make a heart shape. Like this is half of a heart. I'm going to come along this line, kind of a heart shape, and then we're going to meet here in the middle. Now, I'm going to draw mine dark so you can see it. You will still want to be sketching. But you see how that, whoops, see, I went offline here. See how that actually looks like a heart? And there's my first petal. So I'm going to come along here now. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to follow my line for a while. Make a heart shape. The little curve in the heart shape, you want to come about to the middle of what that little spot you saved for your petal. And here we go. There's my second petal. Let's move this over. Let's do our third petal. Now, this was a little short. I can tell that, you know, and it's an easy way to fix it. I'll just draw my heart shape just a little bit above the line. And that should even it out just fine. There we go, 3 petals. And let's add our last petal here. This is actually a fairly easy picture to draw, although it looks really neat. Okay, now the reason I didn't go ahead and do the stem a while ago is we need our stem to come out between the edges of our petal, and we didn't know where those were until we drew the petals, did we? So now I'm going to make a line coming out and going into the top of my little vase, just like that. That's the right side of my stem. And now my stem is a little thicker than a single line, so we're going to add a second line there, and it goes right into my little vase. See how that is? Okay, now you'll want to be caught up before we do the next one. So if you haven't got this done, stop the video for a minute and catch up with us. Okay, if you're back, let's do our leaf. Now this leaf is shaped different than the leaf we drew last week. So let's draw a line up here, and we're going to come off of that stem and just kind of come in and meet that line, something like that. Now we're going to kind of look at heart shapes again. This leaf is kind of an upside down heart. See that? Just like our petals, only these are shaped a little different. This is at the bottom where the top of the heart was at the top of our petal. So, come like about here. We're drawing that heart upside down. Look at that. An upside down heart. There you go. Look at that. Now, I'm going to make this little line go ahead and meet the point. Now it's better if these aren't straight lines. You need fluid lines, flowing lines, moving lines when you're doing nature, because that's the way nature is. Now, men build things that need straight lines, like buildings and railroad tracks and telephone poles and all those things. But nature usually has nice, curvy, pretty lines. All right, now we have, let's see, we need to mark out one more thing here, which is our little fern that comes out the side. So we're going to come out, well, let's see, let me draw this. I have this thing here that I draw on. You know, it's really important to draw on a nice, slick, solid surface, or that way you don't get funny lines. But sometimes I run into the side of this. So now we're going to do a little line for my fern. Let me do it this way. I like to come out, we talked about flowy lines, just kind of a flowy line, something like this. Now, don't be picky. If it doesn't look like mine, that's just fine. And then I like to have a little extra coming off the side of that fern. And there, we only have one more thing now to put in for our basic shape. Now, you could either draw this by hand, because we talked about straight lines, or go ahead and use a handy-dandy ruler. We want to draw, I'll show you here, the edge of the table. And you really want it to be straight, so it comes out the side over here, it matches this, and sometimes when you do it by hand, it's hard to do that. So I'm going to decide, I want the edge of my table about here. And if you have a T-square, it's even better because you can get it lined up with the side of your paper. Now, we don't want to go very far, just a little ways, like that. And there's your table line. Now, we have all of our basic shapes for this picture. Now, all we have to do is make another run over it and add more details to each thing. So let's just start with our vase. Now, I've added stripes like this. You could add circles. You could add any kind of design you want on your little vase. Or you could have no pattern at all. You could just color it a solid color. I think since I did stripes on this one, I'm going to do little dots and circles on this one, just so it's a little different. So here we go with my circles. Now, I haven't done one like this, so I don't know what it'll look like, but I think it'll be fine. Different sizes of dots here, just for a cute little vase. Now, sometimes when I'm working, I will speed my video up so you don't have to watch me do every little thing, and you can keep drawing on yours. It won't take so much time. Sometimes it seems like it takes a long time, and it does. Be careful. Take all the time you need to make your drawings. Why hurry through something you enjoy? If you like to draw, take your time and do the best job that you can. Enjoy the process. Don't hurry through it. It's okay if it takes 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a week, a month. Some of our famous pictures took a long time for famous professional artists to finish. A picture takes the time it takes. Don't hurry through it. This picture should take you at least, probably, if you color it, at least an hour, which is fairly quick for a piece of art. If it takes you less than that, you're probably hurrying through it. Now, if you're just going to do an outline drawing, it won't take you long, maybe 15 minutes or so. Now, my pencil needs some lead there. There we go. About there. Filling my little vase design up all the way up that side. Different sizes of circles. And if circles like this are hard for you, go back to our lesson about drawing circles. It is something that takes a lot of practice. And you'll notice my circles aren't perfect, but they're good enough for me. I'm quite happy with these circles. Let's see, maybe a tiny one here. All right, there's my vase. And I think I'm going to go ahead and darken up and solidify my vase lines here, because I find these are the ones I want to keep. Sometimes it's a little different and you want to change some things. But this one is just fine. I like the way it came out. Let's add another circle there. And another circle there. It's so great that you can change these while you're doing them in pencil, as long as you want to. Now, once you do this in pen, it changes. Then it's permanent. Okay, my vase. Let's make this little top of the vase a little darker now. My vase is done except for coloring. What should we do next? Let's work on this stem. Let's erase any extra lines. Like when it comes off to go to the leaf here, we need to erase that line going into the leaf. See that? And let's erase this line. It was part of our first circle, and those straight up and down lines. Let's get them off of our stem. Now you might have to redraw some stuff here, because if your eraser's anything like my eraser, it's not very skinny. And when I'm trying to do something, it'll erase more than I want it to. Now don't be too worried if you're going to ink this, because you'll do another erasure. You'll do another round of erasing on this. There we go. There's my stem already. Let's do the leaf. Now, I'm going to turn this leaf so the point is pointing towards me. This is the easiest way for me to do this. We want to put the veins in the leaf. Let me show you what I'm talking about. See these lines like this? They're not straight. If they were straight, this is what we would draw. See straight lines? And that really isn't very pretty. We want to do curvy lines. Again, nature loves curves. So I'm going to erase those I give you. So I'm going to put my pencil lead down, like right here. I'm going to come down and curve onto the center, down and curve. See how those are? Now you may make your curvy lines a little different. You make them your way. But just be sure they're not straight like you drew them with a ruler. Then we want to come to the other side and match the veins. So I want to come right across where that side's vein started and come here and do curves like that. See? Now I'm going to be sure all my outlines are nice. And actually, when I come to the end of a leaf, I like to give it kind of a whoops, like it goes that way. But I had, let me erase it and do that over. There we go. See how these look like hearts when they're pointed with the point towards you? There we go. Well, there's our leaf. Clean this up just a little bit. All right, let's move on to our flower. And it's really easy. We're going to do a second set on, what would we call this? Like the top of a heart. Come underneath and just draw like the top of a heart like that. And it doesn't have to be exact. This side's bigger than that side. It won't matter. Now you can do flowers that doesn't have this second part, but in this one we did because it makes them extra pretty to color. So it's like you have the top of a heart here and the top of a heart here. So let's do that around on all of our petals. And see, I'm not doing this anywhere exact, but it's okay. And turn your paper so that it's easy for you to draw. There's nothing wrong with moving your paper around. Now, if you were working on a easel, it's kind of hard to do that. But for drawing, usually we just work laying down on a nice hard piece of wood or something like this. All right. One more thing we're going to do to our leaf is kind of draw a line from the center, not all the way up to this second heart line, but just partly. Kind of like that. Pointing towards it. Look at that. Okay. Now I'm going to erase the lines I have in the center. You can leave it like this, or if you want to have little dots in it, like I did here. And I don't know if you can tell because I put glitter glue on my dots. And sometimes it's harder to see that I drew dots there. But let's draw some dots in the center of our flower, just like that. I'll show you close up. Do you see those dots? Yeah, we're going to fill it all up. Maybe I should call them circles. Once we color them with something, then they're dots, aren't they? You could just leave it like this with no circles in the center. And I think that would actually be neat. Or you can put a circle in the center. All right. Now, let's go do the next details on our little piece of fern. And these are easy too. I like to make kind of like, again, we want to go curvy, not straight line V's. A straight line V would be like this, which would work. But again, I like to make it just a little curvy. So go more like, curve it a little bit. See? Almost like a bird flying. Because in real life, those little sprangles, or whatever you want to call them, that come off of a fern would not be exactly straight. See, those come this way. Do you know how close you are to having your drawing done? It actually takes a lot longer to color this than it does to draw it. Now here, we're just going to add some of those on that side. Let's come through here. You might just have to put one sometimes. But there we go. And we'll put one here. Now we're going to do something. I like to put little dots on the end. And I like to make them like, well, if it was going this way, it would be like little tiny sixes. I could come down here and do a dot. Now you can put your dot on there however you like to. It makes it look like there's little seeds or something on the ends of these. I like the way that looks. See how I'm just kind of drawing it in a tiny little bottom like a 6? Now, you don't have to do what I do. I'm showing you ideas of how to do it. And really, it's a good idea the first time you draw it, to draw it like I do, and then draw it again, and draw it the way you want to draw it. Change something in it. Now, when I go this direction, it's kind of like a backwards 6. Now, here where these two lines meet, I just let them meet and have a dot between them. They can share a dot, don't you think? It's a friendly flower. Here we go. About got it. Now I went offline there, but that's okay because when I ink, I'm going to erase any mistakes I made. Make this a little bit longer with a dot on the end. There we go. Okay, you know, the drawing is almost done as far as an outline. Now, all of these extra little lines where we made this circle and these cross lines, they'll need to be erased. And if you're going to stop here and just make this an outline drawing, you can erase those now. If you're going to ink it and get ready to color it with Sharpies or your color crayons or paint it, we'll go ahead and wait to erase that after we put our pen on there. It makes it a lot easier. So, my next step then is going to be inking it. And you've inked already several times. I'm going to start this inking, but I'm not going to make you watch it all. I'll do a little bit of inking here to remind you how to do it, or in case you've not watched any of the other videos where we talk about this. We get a good pen, and a Sharpie pen's a good one. You want something that isn't going to smear when you use your paint or your markers over it, and Sharpies are good for that. So I'm just going to draw right, see, I made a mistake, right over my pencil lines. And that, to me, this is the hardest part of doing this artwork that you're going to paint or color, is doing these lines with the pen and not make any mistakes. I always seem to make mistakes. See, I'm a little crooked there. My hand's tired today. Now, I'm going to go over everything in this picture, and I'm either going to speed this up, depending how long it takes me, or I'll just take some of this out so you don't have to watch it. And see if you can catch up now, and when I get this done, we'll start coloring. Okay, there we go. I have this all inked, except for one thing, and I like to ink and fill in with my black pen around the dots I drew in this center. So I'm going to do that before I'm done with this inking. These are tiny little spots between the circles, and it's hard to get your bigger Sharpies and things in these little holes. And if you cover it with a glitter or something, you don't even see most of this. But just in case there's something that shows through the glitter or whatever you decide to put here, you may just want to color that. Okay, now the next step we do is we're going to erase any extra lines that we have here and clean this up. These erasers that you can buy at the store are wonderful for this kind of thing. And you just go over all your lines and clean up any lead lines, pencil lines that you have here. Whoops, I went too far with that. Let's see. One notch in the wrong direction. And you almost have your outline done here. Okay, do you have it all cleaned up? Now, we're going to stop here for now. This is part one. This is getting your picture drawn and inked and ready to color. And in part two, we're going to go over how to color it. And also, you need to note how you do this. This is kind of a practice run for a bigger picture yet. Because after you finish this project, we're going to go on and do a larger project using the same flowers. Look at this. Isn't that neat? And doesn't that look hard? It's not hard, but it is a little bit time consuming. You know, I said I used a bigger circle for a vase. Look at this. This was my circle for the vase. And no, I used this for the flowers. I used a circle like that. And then I drew a template for my leaves, and here are those little ferny things. And I just really love this picture. And if you know how to do this picture, you know how to do everything for this picture. And it looks like I drew this on black paper, but I didn't. I filled it in with Sharpie. I usually don't do my backgrounds with Sharpie. I usually do it with chalk. But I wanted to really contrast here, and so I did it with Sharpie. And it doesn't take as long as you think it will. So that will be the next project. And yes, this one will probably take you 3 or 4 hours, or maybe longer. But we're starting out this time with this easy one, so that you've learned how to do all the steps. We're even going to do a little background with our Sharpie, so that this will be easy. So, I hope you've enjoyed this, and come back for our next part, and we'll color this in. So, you have a good time, and bye-bye for now.